Hey, Sassy Stuff. I'm Emma back with another Sideline Stories. And today I'm with Brian Bates of Brian Bates Photography. He is an incredible photographer that works not only on the sidelines, but also on movie sets and with regular human beings like you and me. So, Brian, your journey into photography started with a surprise trip to Alaska for your birthday. So, what was it like capturing the Northern Lights for the first time? How did that experience really reawaken your passion for photography?
Yeah, Emma, thank you much, and honored to be on here with you. So I was an amateur hobbyist. My dad was a hobbyist photographer, and uh, really put the camera down for 25, 30 years. Pick it up every now and then and shoot some birds and stuff, and call it a day. And uh, Patrick took me to Alaska to see the Northern Lights, and I knew enough about photography that I needed a real camera for the long exposure, tripod, and get that. And got there, and it was magical. It's a bucket list for everybody. Everybody should experience them, and it rekindled a love of capturing moments that I'd forgotten that I had. So that's what started it, and came back to Atlanta and bought myself a new camera for my 50th, and was out shooting birds and bees and trees and buildings, and sort of missing something, happy but not fulfilled. And by happenstance, got hooked up with a husband and wife photography team to assist on a model shoot. And Judy and Eddie flipped the switch in my brain 180 degrees. And now I absolutely love photographing people.
No, I love that. And so that client told you captured their humanity.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate and grateful that I apparently have an eye for content and capture moments. And I've actually changed what I call myself. And I now consider myself to be a photojournalist, and not just a photographer. Anybody can take a photo, but I want there to be a story behind those photos that I take, and capturing those magical moments, whether it be on a sports field or off, is a real joy. And I'm really having fun exposing myself to new situations, and working to capture those moments in time, whether they be happy or sad, or everything in between.
Well, how do you push yourself to grow as a photographer? And like, are there particular techniques or styles that you're excited to explore in the future as well?
Yeah, so it's a lot of following photographers and photojournalists on Instagram, and looking at images that they capture, and trying to understand how they got themselves in that position to capture that moment. What camera lens were they using? What settings were they using? Where were they positioned? Were they low, elevated? And trying to get myself out of what I would consider to be, I think we all get them into ruts and routines of, you photograph football from this spot, and tennis from this spot, and an event from this spot, and try different things. Now there are limitations on what we can and can't do on sports fields, where we can and can't be. But even then, trying different angles and looking at different things. My sports photography mentor, Kevin, has reminded me. He said there's important things in sports photography. When you're shooting the action, eyes and balls, you have those in your frame, and then try different things. And the best advice that he had for me, and I admittedly have FOMO, fear of missing out of that amazing play on the field. But he said sometimes the best action is behind you, and in the crowds, when you get those raw reactions of the play, or the missed catch, or the home run, or the game-winning goal in soccer or lacrosse. Those crowd reactions are really impactful, and tell a really important story to the event as a whole.
Yeah, we always talk about that without the fans, you wouldn't have a sport to begin with, because it's the passion from the fans that really drives the passion for the sport. So that's why getting photos like that would be really great to have, and to see what they were like in that moment. But so what drew you to sideline photography, and how does it feel to capture those moments? I know you worked at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, you photographed UGA over the years. How is it?
Yeah, so I've always loved sports. I've played sports my whole life, high school, and then not in collegiate, but intramurals, and then even as adult rec leagues. And so I've always loved sports. They're fun. Uh, they're fun to play. They're fun to coach. They're fun. I reffed flag football for 30 years. They're fun to just participate in general. And so matching photography up with sports was a natural fit once I realized that I have an eye to capture those moments. Being on sidelines is magical. Whether it's high school sports or youth sports or adult rec leagues or college sports or professional sports, there is nothing like it. You get to experience the energy of the crowd, the raw emotion of the players and coaches. You hear and see lots of things that most people never can experience. And it's really, I'm honored, grateful, thankful to have that opportunity and to be able to be there, for high school to help those kids capture moments for their parents, for recruiting, and then in the upper levels just for fun and helping to tell that story.
No, that's awesome. And do you still ref flag football?
Now, I have thankfully retired from it.
I was gonna say I'm trying to get on like a co-ed league right now, so I was wondering if I'd see you out there.
Yeah, you might as a photographer, but
Oh, okay, awesome.
not wearing the stripes.
Well, what are the biggest challenges then when you're on the sidelines? Like, how do you overcome them in the game? How do you make sure you get that shot?
Sure, it depends on the sports. In like high school football, we'll just use football as an example. We're restricted to certain areas, so we can't be behind either team's benches. Uh, they sometimes restrict us from the end zone, so we're really working on that end line from the 20-yard line or the end of the player's box to the end of the end zone, which makes it challenging to get those action shots of players coming at you, from the end zones. In college, we're relegated to the end zones. You got a little bit of the sidelines that we can work with, but you'll see all of the photojournalists in the end zones, and so we're jockeying for space, especially on a big game, and that really limits some of the angles and opportunities for you to tell the story. And so you're reaching long lens across the field to catch the coaches, and then hustling down to the other end when the team that you're covering is moving, and then just turning the camera around behind you. The challenges, and then lacrosse is different, and soccer is different, and tennis. They all have their different challenges on where you can be and where you should be to capture those moments. And then the challenges are, especially in the lower level sports, is lighting. A night high school game is incredibly difficult to shoot. You've got inconsistent light, the angled differently, and so you end up with very dark spots on the fields. Basketball courts are very much the same way. Volleyball courts. So you're challenged to try to capture the stop action to freeze that image in dealing with low light conditions, and so you end up with lots of, in our world we call it noise, with a very grainy image, and you just have to work with those things. There's techniques to kind of eliminate or reduce that, but freezing an image in sports is important. And then you want to go artistic, and you can use a blur and track an athlete across a period of time, and that creates a unique experience as well. Those are very difficult to do. The motion blur on purpose. Now you can do it on accident, really easy, but to have that motion blur, you'll see it in NASCAR a lot, where the car itself is perfectly in focus, but all the background, the foreground to background, is a blur. Mm-hmm. It's called a panning shot. It's really hard to do. So for those men and women photojournalists who do that, hats off to you. It's not easy.
That's what editing's for too.
Well, you can't fix that.
Yeah.
If you get a shot that's out of focus, it's out of focus.
It's done.
Trash. Pan it off as artistic, but 40 of those in a row, it's not artistic. You just have bad settings.
Well, I didn't even think about the lighting, especially for like high school sports, which is why you're taking the photos and not me.
Yeah, it becomes a real challenge, especially indoor courts. the indoor lighting for basketball arenas, volleyball, are really challenging. Some of the gyms are old, and then you have this mixed lighting environment where you'll have incandescent or LED or fluorescence or all three, and that creates all sorts of challenges with light settings and the color of the image when you take it.
You learn something new every day. Do you have a favorite game moment that you've taken pictures of on the sidelines? That's something that stood out to you?
Yeah, so you always sort of remember your first.
Mhm.
I remember the very first lacrosse goal celebration that I shot. I remember my first high school basketball game. My first UGA game where I got a phenomenal picture of Brock Bowers celebrating
Yeah.
a touchdown. My first bowl game, which was the Celebration Bowl last year, followed by the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So all of those have moments where they stand out in different ways.
Yeah, and so you photograph a bunch of sports like lacrosse and basketball, tennis, and of course football. So is there anything different about how you approach each sport when you're photographing on the sidelines?
Yeah, so understanding the sport is really paramount. The flow of the game, lacrosse and soccer operate very similarly in that it's really an up and down, back and forth game. Football is very methodical unless you have a dynamic play, an interception, a fumble, a return for a punt return, a kickoff return, and those create different moments. But in general, football is a methodical move down the field, play after play. Baseball is stop go, stop go, stop go. You know where the play starts every time. The play starts at the pitcher. You know where the next step is. It's at the batter and the catcher. From there, you sort of have to address where you focus your camera, but it's also being situational awareness. Are the bases loaded? Is there going to be a play at the plate? Is there a runner at first? Is there going to be a play at the second? Does this runner have a propensity for stealing bases? And so research if you can ahead of time to understand the impact players, the tendencies of the teams that you're photographing. Tennis, it's back and forth, back and forth. So you really on that you want to focus on one player at a time, capture him or her with service, with return, with volley, and then pivot and capture the other player. And if it's pairs, then you change your angle because you want to get both players in the shot as much as you can to tell the story that it's a doubles thing. Volleyball is different. Basketball is different. You're either under the backboard or off to the side. In basketball, volleyball, you're down under the net or back behind the servers. So it really depends on the sport. Understanding it, knowing where you've got opportunity to catch moments, and then if you can, understanding the different teams and what their tendencies are. If it is, let's use football as a good example. If the team has a tendency to be a running team or an option team, then you want to be as close to the sideline and the play as possible versus being downfield. If the team tends to air the ball out and has a quarterback that can do long passes, then you want to be further down the field to catch those passes. So just understanding the dynamics of the game are really important to help get you there.
So do you research before each game so you do know those things? So you're like, okay, being at this sideline or being at the end zone or whatever would make the better photo.
I try.
Yeah.
I need to do more, but that's talk about areas of improvement. Yeah, I need to do better research. The men and women that shoot professionally are studying those statistics and knowing who those marquee players are, knowing who is likely to catch a long pass, who's likely to score a hat trick in lacrosse, who's likely to be a big name save in soccer, who's likely to hit a home run, understanding those, and that gets you in a better position to capture those moments when they happen.
So when a game ends, you know how they storm on the field and the player, do you go into that chaos? And
Yeah, sometimes it depends on who I'm shooting for
right.
and how long a day it's been and what my objectives are. But yeah, you're in the scrum of it all, capturing images. The celebration uh, tells the story as much as anything.
It's all about storytelling, which we love. And so it's like you tell stories in sports. You've also been a photographer behind the scenes for films, including one that I was in. We worked on The School Mistress together. Hopefully, we work together again soon. But how is that different, documenting the production process than capturing a live sporting event?
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities in that you're capturing and telling a story, not with video, but with an image. You want my job from the BTS and unit photography side is to give the producer director an image that they can use to succinctly tell the story of what that movie TV show is about. So still trying to capture those images. The benefit of movie and TV is you get to rehearse.
Yeah.
So I get to watch the rehearsals and the walkthroughs and know my sight lines and know where the camera operator is going to be, know where the boom operator is going to be, know where uh, the lights are going to be, and can position myself to capture an angle, and then on take two, capture a different angle, and then on take three, capture a different angle. So I can tell that scene from multiple different angles to give the director the most material to best tell the story.
I know one thing I loved that we did a scene in a little pond stream thing, and I love how you would go in and like while they were changing angles or lighting or whatever, you'd be like, "Can you do this one motion where you're like yelling at him again and you like start taking the picture?" It was so much fun. So it was just like another added bonus of the day.
Yeah, and sometimes the crew is in my way.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to. I love capturing the BTS because the image of the actors with the boom operator, with the lights, with the camera, tells a very impactful story. But I also need for those unit stills, for the marketing pieces, I need those images without the crew in it. And on a tight shot, I can't be in the camera person's way. Uh, they have a job to do. Connor would yell at me. He'd push me in the
Yeah.
water and say, "Get out of my way." So there's times where when the crew is looking at takes or thinking about something else, where I will work with the talent to get shots that I think the director needs to tell that story.
Well, so what is the most rewarding part of capturing these moments in time, whether it's on a field or on a film set? What's most rewarding for you?
For me, it's when I capture a moment and I look at it. I'm like, I know what happened. I know exactly what happened from that photo. But when they go public, when they get out there, is seeing people comment on them, to see people use them as their profile photos, on social media, to get the personal notes to say thank you. That was the best photo anybody's ever taken of me, or thank you for being there. Those are fun and make it all worthwhile.
Well, what are you excited about for the future then?
Learning, growing. There's so much that I need to learn about photography in general, and then when you get into the different disciplines, uh, there's a lot of different types of photography, and good photographers can do all of it, but they can't do all of it well. And anybody who says that they can do all photography really well is either very rare or very much lying to you, because we all have strengths. Like food photography is incredibly difficult for me. I have a natural eye for event and sports photography. I was at uh, shooting flag football a couple months ago, and I had another photographer come up and say, "This is so hard." Uh, and in my brain, I'm like, "It's not. This is really easy for me." But shooting portraits and setting up your lights to capture studio lighting for a portrait is very difficult for me. And there's others that have a very natural eye for that. Real estate photography is another one. Uh, that's hard. You know,
Well, it seems like you like the live stuff as opposed to something that's more posed and sterile in a way.
Yeah, I think I do. The energy of that event, and I, the three areas that I really focus on are sports events, and then the film BTS unit stuff. All of them have energy in a very different way. Events are a lot of fun because it's oftentimes people who haven't seen each other in
Mhm.
a long time, or just getting to meet somebody, or listening to a keynote speaker and those reactions, the nods, the eye raises, the furrowed brow of when they see something that they hadn't thought about or disagree with. Those are all fun, and getting myself into a position to capture those moments at an event is just as challenging and rewarding as putting myself in position on the soccer pitch or in a baseball stadium.
So if you could photograph any sporting event, what would it be? And then like any film set you would love to be on or genre of movie.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll put it out there. I would love to be one of the photographers for the FIFA World Cup here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So putting out there. I'm available. Uh,
We're gonna tweet this out. Don't you fret.
yeah, I'm available. 2026 for
Yeah.
also for the club worlds as well in
Mhm.
2025. So that would be, it's absolutely on a bucket list to do that. I think it would be fascinating from a professional standpoint to hit those majors.
Yeah.
The World Series, the Super Bowl. Am I? Are they going to happen? I don't know, and maybe it would be disappointing to have the pressure of trying to deliver images
Yeah.
for those. I think it would be fun, but the FIFA World Cup is definitely on the list, and uh, I would love to shoot a horror film.
Yeah.
I think that would be really fascinating to capture the behind the scenes, the makeup, the props, uh, the styling, the mood, the darkness, the fog. I think that would be really challenging, especially from a lighting standpoint, because
Yeah.
dark and moody. Those would be fun. I did have an opportunity to shoot a Star Trek fan film a year ago, and that was really fun to watch them create the Vulcan with the prosthetics, and then
Sci-fi lighting and
yeah,
everything.
and then to be on the bridge of the Enterprise, or actually called it wasn't the Enterprise, but a similar ship.
Yeah.
But that was very cool.
You got to geek out a
I,
little bit.
I did, yeah. I'm like a nerd at heart, a sports nerd.
Yeah, me too. I love Star Trek, so that would have been cool. I did see those pictures. We might flash them up for people to see.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, I think that's amazing. I did a horror film and they like doused me in fake blood.
Yeah,
And the picture I have of that is the best ever. So if you can do a horror film, I do a horror film because you get cool shots out of it.
yeah. I'm looking forward to it when that opportunity arises.
Absolutely, it will. It will. So, what advice would you give to someone starting their photography journey, especially someone who might be hesitant to put themselves out there to really get into this?
Yeah, so ask lots of questions,
Hmm.
understand the lighting triangle. So there's three things that control the amount of light that comes into a camera. So understand each of those. Stop shooting on automatic. Learn to shoot on manual, where you're controlling those elements. Uh, Real important. Uh, Look at other photographers. Follow them on social media. Don't hesitate to ask them questions. Some of them are phenomenal and will reply. Others, I get it, they're super busy and have lots going on and probably get asked a million questions. But don't hesitate to ask, study what other people do, understand the rules of photography, and then break them. Photography is just like art, it's very, very subjective. There are stylistic things that I shouldn't say that. There are technical things that make an image better. Understand the rule of thirds, understand the golden spiral. These are all things that I've had to learn and study over the last. My journey is I'm coming up on 4 years, so I'm a very much a novice in this realm. I'm still learning, but I would really encourage try, shoot, practice, uh, go out to. There's lots of free events out there, sporting events if sports your thing. There's lots of adult leagues that happen across every state, every city. Go out and shoot them. They don't cost you anything, and you will learn from that. And don't hesitate to ask for feedback. You will get people that are grumpy and curmudgeony and will tell you that your stuff is not good. Push back and ask them why. If they're willing to say your stuff isn't good, ask them to explain why. But you will have lots of people that will be willing to give you very good constructive feedback and explain some technical aspects of images on why the crop isn't particularly satisfying, on your angles, on your background. And I've had all of those. When I first started, and even today, I look at some of my images from when I first started. I'm like, oh wow, that's not my best work.
It's something.
It was something, and it was good at the time. But you learn. Your eye becomes better when you're looking through the camera, when you get that feedback and understand what makes an image technically better. Artistically, that's subjective, but there are technical things that will make an image better. And now my eye is becoming developed, so I can see those things in the camera and adjust to fix that there versus having to try to fix it in post, which is always significantly more time.
Well, see, I didn't know you were only doing this for 4 years. So you fooled me. I thought you've been doing this for like 20. So you can see how much you can accomplish in a short period of time if you put your mind to it, which is amazing.
So March of 2021 was
Wow.
when I went to see the Northern Lights. So that I'm be 54 this coming March, and shot my first high school basketball game in December of 2021. So
That's amazing.
I'm at 3 years on the dot since I started shooting sports.
That's incredible. And it's so true. Like from looking at self tapes I've done even 6 months ago, you see how much you've grown and developed. So looking back again, like 4 or 5 years ago, you're like, wow, I've really grown. And that was something.
Yeah. And it's important to practice and to try new things. And I'm a really good example. I didn't want to shoot people. And then I had an amazing experience with who I would consider to be very good mentors and friends of mine, and that changed my mind on shooting people. You may think that if there's a young photographer or somebody wanting to do a midlife career change, and they may think, oh, shooting food is hard. Well, try it. You might have a natural gift for it, and then be open to the feedback when people give you. Candid feedback, be open to it. Don't take it personally. It is not an attack against you. It is information designed to help you become a better photographer. Do with it what you will, but don't take it personally.
Absolutely. Everyone has an opinion, and in such an artistic field, it's important to know that so you can still have your artistic personality shine through in everything that you do. So that is so important.
Absolutely.
Now, what is next for you? Do you have a sporting event coming up that you're excited about? A film you have coming up that you're excited to shoot? What's next?
So I have had a whirlwind of a fall, and so I'm a little bit on a break to focus on the regular job. But I'm open to whatever happens next. I don't have anything set right now, which is fine.
Yeah. Well, you just went, didn't you go to Vegas?
So I had a week-long softball tournament in Vegas, and then a 4-day flag football tournament in Austin, Texas. And the softball, it was 46,000 images that I took. So going through those and selecting and then editing was a journey into and of itself, and then very similar to the flag football. So those were taxing. They're fun, but they're taxing. And then shoot for a local paper, some high school stuff, and then I've got a couple of corporate clients that I do a fair amount of work for. So happy to take a little bit of a breather and
Yeah.
refresh and start it fresh in the spring.
Absolutely. And the editing never ends. So
It,
I'm sure you have a lot.
it doesn't. You know, I will be moving into editing a holiday party tonight. So uh,
Yeah, exactly. But you need some R&R for sure.
yeah, exactly. They're fun events to capture because they're
Yeah.
very festive and the lights and attire and uh, things like that. I will say I'm very grateful for the opportunities that have presented themselves, and you know I just want everybody to, if they're thinking about moving into the photography spaces, you know, reach out to folks. If there's something that you want to do, find a mentor on social media, ask them for guidance. There are amazing people who are willing to help uh, anybody out there. So don't be scared.
Well, where can people find you to one, admire your work, and two, ask you for advice now that you've offered?
Sure, sure. Brian Bates Photos on everything. So brianbatesphotos.com website, Instagram, Facebook. Not much on LinkedIn or TikTok, but both of them exist.
Both are there. We don't use them though. Well, thank you, Brian, so much. Anything else you want to say?
No, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun, and it was a joy working with you. So we actually did two films
Yeah, exactly. And we'll do
together.
more.
Hopefully, there'll be more on the horizon. So just enjoyed being here and having a really good conversation. Hopefully, it's been beneficial for you and beneficial for listeners. Maybe a tip or two along the way.
Well, I learned about lighting for sure. That I didn't even think about that for high school. So this has been beneficial for me. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Thank you again, Brian, for coming on, and we will see you next time.